The Depth to Delve Deep by Rote Writer. Chapter 29. An Impasse. His boss lets him know that with no work permit, they'll be unable to pay him his wages. And since it's closing in on payday, it's time to produce it. Rote hopes his boss lets the issue go, but obviously that's not going to happen. She offers her mobile phone for him to call his former employer to see just where his work permit is and why it's not yet forwarded, or why it's not forwarded yet. Rote's in need of a theatrical performance. He dials a number while his boss remains in earshot. He speaks with his former employer about his work permit, wondering where it is. His former employer, somewhat confused, doesn't recall ever seeing any work permit. Rote quickly responds with the idea that he may have handed it to the accountant the day after he arrives. Rote can tell his former boss is bothered by his response, but being the good guy he is, says he'll nonetheless check for him and send it along if it's spotted. He mentions mail from his bank has arrived, and he'll send it along with what can be found. Rote hands the mobile phone back to his current boss and relays assurance his work permit will come in the mail shortly. After work that night, Rote heads along the path towards the convent, and like a con, thinks, what now? If they won't pay him without a work permit, and obviously there will be none coming, then how's he to continue working? Following day, payday, Rote wonders what to do. Before work, he goes surfing on the internet at the college library, trying to find anything to do with acquiring work permits. After printing out several documents downloaded from a familiar consulate at the British Embassy, he approaches his boss before work with a way out. After reading the small print found in the printed out documents, he finds that whether his presumed work permit arrives from his former employer or not, the validity of it will no longer be active. It clearly stipulates in one of the documents handed to his boss, it's not permissible to transfer a work permit from one employer to the next without returning to a person's country of origin, and then reapplying through the same process to acquire a new one. With this said, he lets her know he'll no longer be able to work. But without a valid work permit, what's the point? Both realizing it would be fruitless to continue. His boss, after feeling empathy for him, pulls in a few quid from each of the cleaners and hands it to the grateful guy after his last day of work. Rote graciously accepts, totally taken by the sudden outpour of concern. And so his co-workers, now aware of his work-related woes, seem to be more dismayed by the sudden turn of events than he is. One in particular, the one he partners up with, like a tandem cleaning duo. She's quite attached to Rote, almost in a motherly way, with her deep Scottish burring brogue and her grizzled lines of a life hard fought. He finds out she quits a week later, not directly over the outcome, but because Rote's replaced by a far more foreign student. This foreigner doesn't work alongside her as well as Rote. Rote's sad to hear this later and decides to remember her fondly. Especially the time she endears him with a story about her visit to the Nativity in Bethlehem. While there, knowing her gruff manner, she questions her the verifiability of the actual spot where the proposed manger lay. In so doing, challenges everyone in the vicinity to verily say unto her that it's not just a complete fabrication. Rote leaves that day both appreciative for the 30 or so quid donated on his behalf and dismayed by being out of work. In addition, he's presumably out of 200 quid earned for his 2-week work venture. Back in the convent, he relays the day's events to the convent crew with an overwhelming sense of gratitude to the cleaners' sudden and most unexpected collection. Following day and free from work, Rote walks back to the college to continue using the computer, much to the chagrin of the librarians. They insist he produce a student card. He'll in turn continue to concur it'll come. With that, he logs on after checking his emails, searches the net for more family history. He uses his biological mother's maiden name as the means to discern and learn about his heritage and descent. He manages to form a lineage all the way back to Adam. Some Scots and Irish long to belong. Some believe they're the lost tribes of Israel. Rote's linear line leans and leads through several of the biblical kings, omitting, of course, the omnipotent offspring in the New Testament. That aside, there are 2 new entries into the convent, one being a former Irish soldier and another former British soldier. Both have done a tour or 2 in parts of Northern Ireland. After hearing all of Rote's research and reasoning, they both chime in on the mention of the name Maguire. They give the sense that the Maguires are still active today as they were hundreds of years ago in subversive scenarios. One of the new entries to the convent is originally from County Donegal, Ireland. It borders County Fermanagh, Northern Ireland. There, they say, the Maguires are always welcome. The two, who seem to be in unison with their own take on Maguires, give him some more insight to the already wide spectrum of the colourful clan. Another older fellow refers to the Maguires as a bunch of Tuaregs, nomads, though it sounds like toe rags when Rote hears him say it, with his heavy Scottish burr and brogue. Rote thinks the tag refers to rustlers on the cattle raids like the Irish legend of the cattle raid of Cooley, or Tain Bo Cualain. In that legend, another one is born, Cuchulainn. The 17-year-old up in Ulster fights an army from Connaught, determined to possess a prized bull, one soldier at a time.